Hello and welcome to another episode of The Machines Marketing Across Industries. Today I'm with the Machine co-founders, Carlos and Neara. And today I wanted to talk about some mental health related brands. And as it happens, you both have worked on a few different Carnegie Mellon University-related projects. Can you tell me a bit about those?
Yeah. We've worked actually in a couple of projects, CMU related, very different angles to mental health. One is a kind of like a mindfulness meditation app, and the other one is a research center, which is actually a joint venture between Carnegie Mellon University and the University of Pittsburgh. And it's essentially a center to identify and mitigate hate before it happens in terms of some kind of terrorist attacks or any other forms. So they use AI to mitigate that.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the app first.
Yep.
So is it like a meditation wellness app? Is it similar to like Calm or Headspace?
Yeah, it's actually different. It is an app. It has a whole curriculum behind it, but it's very different from Calm or Headspace. Both of those platforms are kind of relaxation minded. Kind of take you if you're stressed or whatnot, you listen to some background music, some chill out, and gets you in that kind of mood, And Equa is kind of completely different. It's actually it has a methodology. It's been researched with proven results, developed by the team at Carnegie Mellon University, and it actually teaches you to. It doesn't calm you down at a moment of stress. It teaches you to stress less throughout your life. So it's kind of like more of a studying how to live not stress free, but definitely largely reduced.
Interesting. So it's more about giving you the infrastructure to be able to handle these mental health issues than maybe something like a momentary escape or something.
Absolutely, exactly. It's the anti-escapism.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So what did you do for Equa? What were some of the things that you did to launch that brand?
So we initially had developed a tagline, and then followed by that was a website, and then explanatory video. And we had to really focus and hone in on the sensibility and the aesthetics of the website in order to help the viewers, meaning patients and visitors, to easily navigate through the platform, the website, and to somehow remove this layer of like this hidden silent noise that always happens in the back of a person's mind when they're actually going through some type of mental or issues, and to help them, to channel them to a space where it's like completely a safe space, an empty space, and where a person can actually like really self-regulate, heal with calmness. And so I think that we achieved that pretty well, when we tied everything in together onto a website.
Very interesting. Now, that can be somewhat of a crowded marketplace. There's a lot of these types of apps. So how did you differentiate Equa from some of the competitors?
Yeah, so I think that the key thing, and Nara mentioned the tagline, and the tagline kind of says it in a way. The tagline is free your best. And so, back to where we kind of started the conversation, the typical apps, you mentioned the crowded space, right? Most of these apps, they have a lot of kind of gadgets, like, special music or celebrities sometimes, kind of curating the session. And like I said, it's kind of like a chill out, relax, kind of, make a little bit of, incense and tea and whatnot, you kick back, right? This is not like that. This is like, it's a mindfulness app. It has a full, like I said before, proven curriculum that you have to work hard on. You have to like train and kind of sit down. And it is a relaxing, Nara was referring to a relaxing atmosphere because you don't want to be stressed, of course.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a moment where you're focusing, you're concentrating, and you're learning how to get rid of stress. So the way our brain apparently, functions, we have all these like negative stimuli throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout our lives. And there's better and worse ways of dealing with that. So Equa teaches you how to kind of all these negative stimuli that come at you, how to manage them better, how to you know, get them out of your way so that you can bring the best version of yourself, right? And that's how we're positioning it. This is not a place to come and chill out. This is a place to work on yourself, and you know, just find the best version of yourself. You know, by eliminating those obstacles, you're just not relaxing at a given moment. You're living a more relaxed life throughout.
Very interesting.
And I would also like to add that when I actually started using Equa, you know, a handful of times, it's every session has the segments where the voice actually talks to you. And I wouldn't say that it's a therapeutic session. It's more, to me, felt much more like meditative and spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
When you meditate, you're supposed to have a complete clear headspace, mind space. And that's when you can focus on, you know, the transitioning, right? And so the voice will actually anchor you and take you and navigate you to the next step. And will tell you not to listen to anything, not to think of anything. And then that progression just keeps going. I never finished the app, by the way.
Yeah, it almost it feels like almost like training, you know, or like exercise. You know, when you think of like health, you know, if you want to make your physical health better, you have to work at it. You have to build that strength, and that's interesting that, you know, we were able to launch this app that can help you do that mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a training course, exactly. Yeah, and it has, you know, you move from one base to the other and the other until you're, you know, completely.
It's a mindful training or mental training, right?
Mindfulness training.
Mm-hmm, mindfulness.
So tell me a bit about Carve. That's sort of a very different project than Equa.
Yeah, absolutely, very different. It's we kind of packed it there into the mental health, but it comes from a completely different angle.
Yeah.
So Carve is a project that started out of both Carnegie Mellon University and University of Pittsburgh. Back in 2018, we had that unfortunate terrorist attack on the synagogue, the Tree of Life, you know, synagogue. Both schools are in the neighborhood, basically, physically. And so it hit very, very hard and very close to them. And they, having the resources that they have in terms of, you know, intellectual resources and academics and so forth, they decided to create a center to mitigate those attacks, right? And they're basically through AI and data gathering, what happens, most of it on social media, they're able to sometimes identify when potentially like a terrorist recruitment or something like that is happening, and they can kind of, you know, get identified and stop it before it actually occurs, right? So that was kind of the premise of the center. And they called it initially the Collaboratory Against Hate. And they were then looking for, they thought that was there's many centers like that throughout the country and internationally, actually. They thought it was a little generic and also kind of negative, that hate word, you know?
Yeah.
So they hired us at the time to kind of change that around, change the narrative, the naming, the logo, and everything. So that's how that came around, yeah.
So that was the work that you were doing for them mostly, is a rebrand of something that they were already in the works on?
Correct. Yeah. The center already existed, right? And
The
then
center already existed for
okay.
X amount of years, but they needed to kind of reinvent themselves in order to get more visibility, you know, for their cause. And so, yeah, that was a very interesting, challenging project at some point, because I think
it's a sensitive territory also.
No? Very sensitive territories. We had to be very, very mindful, but it's also because it's academia. We had to be very, very cautious in a way, if you can put it that way. So, you know, when we actually start doing a branding project, I think one of the very general things like websites. And then it's always it comes with a logo, for instance, and then the tagline, for instance. When it comes to naming, apply to a logo, that's a whole other pool. So naming it's a whole other planet. And so from Collaboratory Against Hate, they want to rename the organization, but one of the first things, because they're in academia, they want to have a name that's an acronym. So I said, okay, that's great. But in conjunction with that, they want the acronym to have a word, to say a word. So
Okay.
which means
it has
it's
to be able to work both ways.
yeah.
Right,
So
right.
that becomes an acronym, right? And so we have this conjunction of two components. It's like an acronym and an acronym. And so Carlos and I were just
Yeah, we came up with all sorts of
so
ideas.
we actually, it was almost kind of like just literally having a blackboard and just throwing ideas and coming up with names and say, does it become a good acronym? That becomes an acronym.
And I was going to ask because it's a fairly creative name. Like, can you explain the equal sign and the exponential T?
So, well, let me actually, I just want to finish the story.
Yeah.
So we presented over, I don't know, 2,000 names. That meant
2000.
No,
2000.
2000.
Oh, I was going to
Sorry.
say, my goodness.
And it could, I remember reading some of our old notes, and I had like pave, like you had said PAX, and I said peace, and then like, I don't know, just it goes all the way out there. And so we came out with the word carve, and which actually stands for a center, center an organization.
Yeah, it's actually the Center of Applied Research on Targeted Violence. And we'll explain about oops, sorry, your previous question before.
Yeah.
So, and before we presented it, we said, you know what, that the word, the verb, the meaning of carve is actually a really positive thing because you're carving out hatred. You're carving out, targeted, attacks. You're carving a lot of this negativity out into something that's, their mission, right? So Carlos can.
Yeah, so
tell you
then
more
so
about
then
the
the
T.
carving story is like, okay, how do we make that acronym properly? Because it's kind of like carved, know. So we that became a chat. The organization loved it. They loved the idea. They loved the sentiment. The narrative that Neara just walked us through. But how do we now put it in a way so we that graphically makes sense and you can pronounce it properly, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to go with a couple of things. CMU and University of Pittsburgh, they're both very scientific-driven universities,
Tech
right?
heavy,
Tech
science.
heavy. They're very about the data, and the center itself is all about data and AI, right? So so we wanted to something that would resonate internally with the audience also, and which was it was great because we one of the things we didn't talk about is like the center was very much focused on equality. There's kind of this preconception, a little bit politically, if you will, that the negative stuff gets usually fed from the right, and the left is kind of like more the good guys kind of perception, and they're completely they actually have mixed in the center, mixed opinions and feelings about those things, but their main thing is to keep it all equal and data driven. Let data speak for itself and be the truth. Let's keep opinions out of the way, right?
Yeah.
So there's this equality thing that they're giving every bit of data the same weight and importance, and they interpret that, and that's kind of the part of the modus operandi, right? So we made we chose a very bold font. And just very, very, very simple. And there was kind of a mathematical expression on the logo, which is we start with the equal sign and for equality, right? And then you have the carve initials, and the T is the exponential. It's exponential T. So it actually looks like the logo looks like a math equation almost, right? And that also, the exponential T represents that there is a strong focus on targeted violence. There's a lot of violence in the world, as we all know, the centers aren't concerned to deal with all of that violence. They're just very specifically dedicated to targeted violence. So that equals carved to the T, really explain that. And they loved it. They kind of, when they presented it internally, we weren't there, but they told us the reactions were very positive. People love that kind of mathematical kind of connection to it.
Yeah, that equation symbol, we didn't really anticipate that until we actually had like a really long meeting with the, with our clients, and we just kind of like brainstormed. And then after that, Carlos and I were like, after a meeting, we're like, you know what? They said something really, really interesting, and we can actually go further into making this logo, the naming, in such a grand scheme of, their mission. Yeah.
Yeah, we at the end, when we presented at the end, we looked at all, like I said, there's like literally dozens of centers and anti-hate centers, and mostly in academia, right? And it just, when we plotted all the logos together, this one just stuck out,
No, it's really interesting because, I mean, you hear a lot about these types of centers and things like that, but to have a name that immediately tells you that this is something that is data driven. And I also think the equality is huge too. Even just if there was a perception of bias, these types of things can have a completely different connotation.
Right.
So to be able to work all of those into the logo and the name, I think that's great.
Yeah.
So it was a very fun and challenging and fun project.
Challenging indeed, but it really did.
It wouldn't be fun if it wasn't challenging,
exactly,
right?
Yeah.
It's one of those projects that actually kind of kept us up one night.
Yeah.
Right?
It was
Just
also
thinking.
a little bit of a. We've done some academic work before, but it was a little bit of new territory. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I think that about does it for us today. Thank you again for joining us with the Machines Marketing Across Industries. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, go to themachine.biz/podcast. Carlos, Neara, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you, Evan.
Thanks, Evan.